This week's 911 episode, Disconnected, swiftly dispels any doubt that we would see Eddie again shortly after last week's Eddieless episode, while also providing a glance into his new life in Texas. It's not like Eddie had big expectations for life there because he is only there to be with Christopher. With a leaky roof, the difficulty in finding employment, and Chris continuing to live with his grandparents, things are more difficult than anticipated. After being kidnapped and having her throat cut by Amber Braeburn 2 episodes and 5 weeks prior, Maddie is still coping with the trauma of returning to Los Angeles. This episode begins with her returning to work in a dream, but it soon devolves into a nightmare in which Maddie must once more endure what Amber did to her. Even though Maddie has been experiencing these nightmares for a while, she enters the episode resolved to go back to dispatch. Episode 12 of 911 Season 8. Maddie loses her voice. Maddie gets up early the following morning, determined to return to her job. Maddie confides in Chimney about her night terrors, since he is worried about her coming back so early. She confides in him that she believes Amber still controls her and prevents her from assisting others, and Chimney agrees with her decision. Then, on her first day back at work in 5 weeks, Maddie gets off to a good start. Maddie is delighted to see Sue and Josh once more, especially after Josh reassures her. When Maddie and Chimney visit the doctor, they find out that she is mute for no medical cause. Her blood panel, nerves, and vocal cords are all normal. They are informed by the doctor that Maddie has psychogenic aphonia. In a devastating scene, Maddie explains, "She took my voice." Later, the 118 responds to a report about a man called Ozzy, who is currently hanging out of a multi-story garage after his automobile crashed. Episode 12, Season 8. Eddie attempts to make it work in Texas. Eddie shows up for an interview at an El Paso fire station. Captain Morales is kind enough, but he is hardly Bobby Nash, and his office is even furnished with dead animals. A montage of the house really collapsing is shown as Eddie discusses moving into his new home and makes hints that it is not perfect. Despite this, Eddie assures Helena, Paula Marshall, Ramon, and Christopher over dinner that he is optimistic. At that moment, Chris receives Eddie's PS5. By asking Chris where he wants to set it up, Eddie takes this chance to allude to Chris moving back in. 911, Season 8, Episode 12. Eddie finally takes advantage of his circumstance, cash-strapped and jobless. Eddie follows Buck's counsel and makes the most of his circumstances. Although it's sad to see the truck he purchased in Season 3 depart, Eddie is adamant about trading it in. In order to become a rideshare driver, he purchases a larger car that can accommodate more passengers, but Eddie finds it difficult to get used to the work. Despite the fact that none of his passengers genuinely want to speak with him or interact with him, he is quite talkative with them all. In a montage, Eddie is seen battling at work while acting to his family as though he was hired as a firefighter. In order to pay for Chris's chess tutor, he has begged his parents for assistance. One night, he is so exhausted that he nods off during dinner. Eddie finally makes a change after receiving some much-needed advice from a former rideshare driver who is one of his passengers. He learns to anticipate the requirements of the passengers, ceases chatting with them, and even receives a $100 tip for bringing someone their misplaced phone. Episode 12 of 911 Season 8. Maddie regains her voice. Athena stops by to see how Maddie is doing when she is having trouble with voice exercises. After speaking with Athena, Maddie relaxes and stops practicing her voice. She then walks to the playground with Ji-Yun. Maddie glances at a text from Athena for a moment while Ji is off having fun with some new pals. But Ji is gone as Maddie looks up. The scenario, in which a wordless Maddie tries to cry for Ji but is unable to do so, is incredibly heartbreaking and horrifying. Maddie can now shout for Ji after regaining her voice.